Hello, hello, and welcome to another video experimentation. I think I'm going to be calling this series Des Rambles. Today's subject is going to be Project Gorgon. So, I found this game by looking for a new MMO to play in my off hours, because I'll feel a little bit guilty about not streaming or recording any kind of uh, like single player experience game without making some kind of content out of it. Whereas an MMO, I feel guilt free and just plugging away hours and hours into it. So far I've gotten about 100 hours into this game now, and I can, just from that alone, I can recommend it. But I've played many other MMOs in the past, and like, for example, I played Final Fantasy XI for years. I played WoW, I've played Final Fantasy XIV, of course, and countless other free-to-play MMOs, MapleStory, random things like that. The main ones I have the most familiarity with are probably Final Fantasy XI, WoW, and 14, though I am not the most up-to-date on those games as of right now. So I've explained kind of why I wanted another MMO, but I never explained. But the problem I had with the typical sources for MMOs, your WoW, your 4 and 14, are they weren't scratching the right itch anymore, for lack of a better word. Final Fantasy XIV has largely gone in a direction that I don't really care for with its classes, job system, and I'm not too fond of how it's kind of progressed. WoW, I've never been too big on its aesthetics. It's also gone in a direction that I'm kind of like iffy on, and I always feel kind of guilty about giving Blizzard any kind of money, if I'm honest. That led me kind of going down the less trodden path to find an MMO to fill my time with. So found this guy by browsing the Steam list for MMOs and looking up other top lists and whatnot on the internet, just trying to find something that was a little bit different. My initial experience with this is very rough looking, as you can already see from this character model. It has a lot of charm to it. It's made by a very small studio. The community itself is rather small and close and tight-knit. Like, I think any given time I've seen about 200 or so people online or so. Not much more than that. Let's hop into the game and I'll continue rambling. So, what really brings this game into feeling very unique is the fact that it doesn't really take itself too seriously compared to other MMOs I've played. It has a lot of comedy to its dialogue. It's very, I don't know, a lot of its writing has that sense that it was made by a small team of like 5 people who just really cared about MMOs and wanted to make a fun one that scratched the itch that they weren't getting. From what I understand, this is largely a game that's more of the EverQuest kind of school of thought rather than a WoW school of thought, meaning it's a sandbox MMO as opposed to a theme park MMO. Theme park MMO being the kind of thing where you largely jump from place to place and just do quests, rush to the end game, and that's where all your fun is, at the end game. Whereas a more sandboxy MMO has a lot more of an open feel to it, and there's much more of an emphasis on how you get to max level rather than just get to max level. Some of the other things that this game kind of emphasizes as well is that in my experience, it doesn't have much NPCs, but the few NPCs that are around have a lot of importance to them. There aren't many NPCs that will be like oh, this is just the generic shop guy that you put all your vendor trash into or whatever. Not every NPC is willing to buy all of your crap. Having said that, they also have a limited amount of funds that they'll purchase your stuff with. So there is like a limit to how much money they have and are willing to part with until you get your friendship with them up by doing quests with them, giving them gifts, things of that nature. There are plenty of rewards for like just doing quests or hanging out with an NPC. Hanging out with an NPC can result in skills, like a skill increase in like either your main skill, like combat skills, or it could be like your carpentry or something like that, depending on the task that you're doing and the NPC. That being said, there are a shit ton of skills to kind of to pick up and to learn and to figure out what exists. This is a game that the kind of game that has so many skills in it, it's mind-boggling. You know, when you have gender studies as a skill in a game, that you're in for some real shit. That is real, by the way. That is a real skill in this game. There's also poetry appreciation. There are incentives to leveling all of these skills. Some will synergize more with other things than not. For example, cooking. At level 50, I think it is, don't quote me on that, there is a bonus level to your fire magic. So it incentivizes anybody who's who might be leveling fire magic to also get into cooking. And there's also like, you can also get these levels through other skills as well. So there's plenty of synergy that happens with some of your skills. Heck, even in this game, dying is a skill and increases your maximum amount of HP and power and things like that, which is your resources for all of your abilities, all of your combat abilities. Just to briefly talk about combat a bit, the way combat kind of works in this is pretty similar to a lot of tab target MMOs. This is a very much tab target. It's not really an action MMO. There is a global cooldown timer, and then you have ability cooldowns. And the way that this kind of works is you have a basic attack, which will refresh both like all of your pools, your health pool, your armor pool, and your power pool. So it's kind of a built-in healing system. Having said that, the Holy Trinity is still very much a thing in this game. There is still ways to build around being a tank or a healer or a DPS. Like any game, there's always a need for more tanks and healers. I've largely played this game solo up to this point. The way that your abilities kind of work is you are essentially building out a row on your deck. So you get 6 slots to work with, and you have a bunch of different abilities, as you can see here while I'm scrolling, to choose from. And you build out a loadout onto your bar, and that is what you get for, say, fire magic. The top bar for me is fire magic, and the bottom bar is priest magic. And you can pick between primary and secondary. Secondary being essentially, in Final Fantasy XI terms, it's your sub job. You'll gain XP in both your main class and your subclass just by fighting stuff. Having talking about death a little bit more, I did mention that death was a skill in this, and it does increase many combat-oriented skills, such as endurance, I believe it is. See, is it endurance? Yeah, endurance. It will increase your maximum health pool and your maximum power pool. The thing is there isn't any real consequences for dying. There's no have to repair, like, money sink, like repairing equipment or anything like that. However, there is a caveat, there is an asterisk to this. Dying to a boss will give you a curse, and curses have a very wide range of effects. Early on Tutorial Island, essentially, you can run into a optional boss that will, if you die to him, will just give you a big head. And some bosses are just like that. You'll just have some rather meaningless effect that is applied to your character, and others are more, well, pain in the ass, for lack of a better word. I ran into one where, in combat, I could randomly lose half my health. And these curses are pretty much permanent until you beat that boss, which can be kind of a pain in the ass to deal with. So it makes bosses a lot scarier, but a lot of the common fodder are a lot easier to try and build up the courage to just explore. Because this game is a lot about exploration. Just seeing what things are where and whatnot. However, the nice thing though is there is a warning before you come across a boss. Like any boss that will actually curse you. There is like, your screen will flash red and there'll be all sorts of text that will fly by, and there's no way you'll miss the fact that you're going up against a boss. So there is that. If this rambling video has piqued your interest in this game at all, it is available on Steam. It is largely inexpensive. Even if you're just kind of curious, you're not sure if it's the right kind of MMO for you, there is a demo. Well, they call it a demo, but it's essentially a free trial. It lets you explore all of the tutorial island. I say tutorial island. Yeah, it's essentially a tutorial, but it's the starting area. You're allowed to explore as much as you want with no time limit. No level limit, just explore around and you'll get a good feel for how the game kind of works. On top of that, your character does transfer over to the full game. I say give it a shot if it's anything, if it piques your curiosity. If nothing else, the worst you have to lose is a little bit of time, and that's about it. You might find your next game here. If you do pick it up, the only thing I suggest is you talk to every NPC, and make friends with them as soon as you can. It is always, always, always beneficial to make friends with NPCs in this game. And that will just about do it for me. I will see you all next time, next video. And until then, take care and goodbye.